So I'm really pleased to have the chance to introduce Kif Gallagher. Kif is somebody who was a visionary back then and is a visionary today, and I could not be more pleased to have the chance to introduce him to you so he can tell you more about this important work he's doing. On behalf of CAP and all of us here, thank you so much for being here.
So Music National Service, when we started talking about this a couple years ago, and it was the AmeriCorps was part of President Obama's campaign arts policy platform, and now through this legislation, it's been validated by Congress as an idea, not only again about the arts, but as under the Education Corps, it's an education strategy, and as part of the service legislation, it's a service and civic engagement strategy. And when we set out to think about how we were going to design this program, a lot of people were like, what's your model? How are you going to model this thing so you can model it really tight, like in one school? You know, get that widget down so that it's so tight you can plug it into a kid between 3 and 5 and pop it out at X dollars per hour. And, you know, and then you'll be a social entrepreneur because you will approve in this model and you can like duplicate it and replicate it all over the country. Again, that is one way to grow. But the reality is, for an arts corps, there already is an infrastructure. There's programs all over the country. Right here out of Kennedy Center. Out of the Kennedy Center is a leader in the country in having teaching artists go into housing projects and schools and communities and after-school programs and working in these very areas. And so rather than trying to necessarily prove that model right down to the activity, what we're doing is we're trying to identify the best practices in the field and build a program around that can actually help lift the whole field up through training, through curricula, through measurement and evaluation, so folks aren't left saying, hey, we love an artist corps, but what does it do? What does it mean? How do you communicate it? What's it about? So we hope that we can be part of a larger artist corps effort through Music National Service to get the whole arts community working with Americans for the Arts, Kennedy Center, other people to help manifest this idea of an artist corps. I'd also like to welcome to the stage Josh and Cora Dunham. Every good band leader dreams of a tight rhythm section. Well, it doesn't get any tighter than the husband and wife team of Josh and Cora Dunham. Products of the Houston public school system, Josh on bass and Cora on drums, make it a point to reach back to mentor emerging artists just as they've been mentored. Over the past 5 years, they have performed, toured, and recorded with Frank McComb, Phil Upchurch, Pink, Richard Smallwood, to name a few. Currently, Josh and Cora are the cornerstone rhythm section for music icon Prince, and we'd like to welcome them tonight for coming for free, being volunteers like everyone else who's helped us to come this far.
I'm Joshua Dunham. This is my wife, Cora Dunham.
We came up in the public school system in Houston, and to have your support and to have the students to be able to perform and kind of experience mentorship. We just met some of the students today, and we did a sound check earlier, and it's just really refreshing to kind of see what we got when we were in elementary school, middle school, and high school, to have the community support and to have the musician support. So we applaud Kif, we applaud Megara, we just applaud your presence, and just it's more than a notion to support the arts and to support music. And so it's a pleasure for us to be here, to join the Sitar Band.
Sitar Arts Center Saints Band is their premier ensemble and have performed at events throughout Washington, D.C., including the After School Alliance National Conference and the Martin Luther King Day service at 6 in I Historic Synagogue. The ensemble plays rock, jazz, Latin, and pop music.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Sitar Arts Center Saints Band.
without further adu, let me just welcome Congressman Crowley, Congressman Moore, and Peggy Horseman Hodes, who happens to be the spouse of another musician congressman, Congressman Paul Hodes from New Hampshire. I should also thank, who are not with us tonight, the two senators from my home state of New Hampshire, Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Senator Judd Gregg. A bipartisan congressional delegation stepped up and also made this happen in the Senate on the floor.
This is a nice song we know you all know, so we hope you all sing along with us.
This is a song about the greatest country in the whole world. This land is your land, this land is mine, from California to the New York Island, from the redwoods to the Gulf Stream. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Moore, Peggo Hodes. Usually you form a caucus to make something happen in Congress. You know, you form a different type of caucus if you have a goal. And what's unusual here is we actually reached one of our goals just before we announced the caucus being created, and that was the expansion of the AmeriCorps program to include an amendment that I had offered to the SERV Act, the Edward Kennedy SERV Act, to expand AmeriCorps to Musicians and Artists Corps, to bring music and art to some of the more struggling communities in America and the poor in our country, to create a creative base where one does not exist. One thing we know about creativity, if you have it, it helps a urban or town or village flourish, and without it, it becomes like a ghost town. And so I hope you appreciate that as well. I think music has that way. It can bring you to things you never thought you'd be brought to. And it has enriched my life, and we hope through the Musicians Corps and the expansion of the Musicians Caucus that music will enrich many, many more lives in this great country of ours. So thank you, Kif, thank you all for your interest, and onwards and upwards.